Hi there. Today I'm going to take you on the process of how I make my gnomes. So for this project, I had already started by making the hat and the base of the gnome on my knitting machine. I use an Addy knitting machine with 22 pins. And it takes a few minutes just to crank that out, but I picked two yarns that I thought went well together, and I'm trying to do a camo themed Father's Day gnome, which is why I chose the ones that I came up with. But I picked my two yarns. I used 50 rows for the bottom and 50 rows for the top. I added a cute little pom-pom in fluorescent orange, since most hunters need to have bright orange with them. And then this is what the hat looks like by itself. I just folded it up a little bit so it's ready to go for when I make my gnome. For the base, I made it exactly the same way that I made the hat. I cinched it together at the bottom, and then at the top I just used some leftover yarn. I tied it tight on one part and then weaved it in and out through all the pieces, and now I have this portion here that I'm going to be able to tug on. If you're interested in seeing how I did this process, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. I'd be happy to make a tutorial on how to do that. But once I have this stuff made, this is where I actually go through and make it look like a gnome. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take some poly pellets that I have. I normally just put these in a little plastic bag so they don't potentially come through the holes in the bottom. So these are the polyfiber pellets. They're sold with polyfill in the craft store, or you can buy them online. I use tiny little bags that I had on hand because they fit really well. I just push the extra air out. So I have this little pouch, kind of like a bean bag. And I use this to kind of add some weight to the gnome because they do get kind of top heavy. And if you don't have some weight at the bottom, they fall over really easily. So this allows me to push that down on the inside. And then I take some polyfill that I have. This is the dry fill, so it doesn't move around very much, but you can use any. This is just what I happen to have nearby, so that's why I'm using it. It's not necessarily the best choice unless you really like the dry and you like how it stays in place. So you want to fill that up so you have a nice solid little gnome bottom. And that's about how full I want to make it. So now I'm going to take this long end that I have and pull tight on here. Now it's not going to go completely tight, and that's totally fine, because even though this part here is not going to look the prettiest, it's going to be completely hidden inside the gnome hat. So it doesn't really matter if it looks good or not. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that onto the other piece that I have, just to keep it in place so I don't have to keep holding tension on it. And then I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm just going to sew up any excess holes that I have. So I'm going to go through here. Since I already went through it once, it's kind of a tough section there. Just gonna knot some things off here. Sew this up. Okay, and again, it doesn't necessarily look the prettiest up at the top, but all of that is going to be hidden completely anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just go ahead and tie these pieces off and then leave a little bit of excess so it's less likely for it to unknot. And there we go. There's my gnome bottom. Okay. One alternative, if you don't have the poly pellets or you don't want to buy them, one of the other things you can do for the bottoms is you can get some wooden heart bases, these little things here, so a little wooden heart, and if you paint this black, when you put your gnome on top of it, it kind of looks like it has little feet sticking out the bottom. So that's really cute too, if you like that idea. You just want to make sure you're kind of hiding the heart part on the back so it doesn't go too far, and you can even make them sit back a little bit. I think that would be really cute, so it's like their belly sticking out a little bit. All right, so after you have the bottom made, right now it's pretty wide. I'm going to squish it a little bit because I want it to be a little bit taller so that the hat fits over it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by placing my beard. And I had pre-cut some faux fur that I bought at the store into little squares, but I'm actually going to adjust this so that it's not exactly this shape because I've noticed it fits better. So what I'm going to do is cut a little triangle off of each of the bottom sections. When I'm doing this, you want to be really careful when you cut the fur that you're not like cutting right across the top, because then it's giving it a really bad haircut. You kind of have to make sure your scissors are right at the base of the fabric and not too much into the fur. Okay, and when you do that, you should see that you kind of have to like pull it off almost like Velcro. That means that you cut it correctly. So I do one there, and I do the other one right over here. Okay, so it should kind of look like the top of like a barn. And then I'm going to find where the center is. And I'm going to make a little tiny notch in here so I have more room for my nose. So I just took a little triangular notch off of there. And I want to save all of these pieces because one of the other styles of gnome beards that I do actually uses these leftover ones, and it makes a really cute little like handlebar mustache. So I have that. Now, that's the shape of my gnome beard. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull off some of this extra stuff that's going to be loose so that it doesn't fall off later. I just do that by kind of brushing it with my fingers, and you'll see I get this tiny little pile of hair. And that's just to prevent it from doing it for whoever, from having it shed for the customer or whoever is receiving it. Alright, so now when I go to place my beard, I'm going to be putting it right about here. I'm going to take my glue gun, which is right here, and I'm going to add some glue right around the top. You don't need too much. I'm going to put that right here. After I do that, I'm going to add the nose. So for the nose, I use these dowel rod balls. They kind of go on the end of a dowel rod, but I don't really need to worry about the middle part being taken out because it's going to be completely covered up. So what I do is I go around the edge of the hole, and then sometimes I'll add a little bit of extra glue right inside the hole so that as I push down, it kind of like grabs the fabric a little bit. I put that right in here, and I want to smush it down while the glue is drying. Looks like I'm kind of like attacking my gnome, but that allows it to really like hold in place there. All right, so now the nose is attached, the beard is attached. I just need to add the hat, and this is pretty much the basic process. So for the hat, you just kind of want to put the hat on the gnome like you would a little kid. So I pull it around, and now attaching it is really important because that is what keeps it nice and secure. So I'm going to start right at the nose. I'm going to put a bunch of glue right around the top of the nose here. And then I'm going to push down and hold that so it's kind of in the shape that I want it to be around the nose. After that, I'm going to go ahead over here, pulling down any of this fur that kind of got up in there, and I want to put just a little bit of glue across this part. As well as right over here on this part. that kind of holds it in place and makes sure that the sides of the beard are not going to stick out, so that you don't see the pieces of fur, that it kind of looks like it's natural. The last thing I want to do is go back to the back of the gnome, and right about in the middle, I'm going to add some glue right in here. And just push down so that that back portion doesn't start sliding off of the head. And there we go. I have my little gnome. It is all finished, and it will sit, if I just kind of smush it down a little bit, it will sit nicely on the table for me. The beard is long enough so that if you put it on top of something, it will kind of hang down. If you don't like it, you can give it a little haircut so that it doesn't go too far. But because I like to put these on little ledges, I think that's at the perfect spot. If you wanted to, if you had any little extra embellishments, you could add them, like maybe a little like hunting type of felty or something like that. You could also add arms to it and have him hold something if you would prefer to do that. This is just my basic style of gnome. A lot of times I will add a bow, however, because it's meant for Father's Day, I don't know that I'm going to add a bow, but I could add a little embellishment right here, or like I said, in his hands if I wanted to. However, that's totally not necessary. He looks adorable as is, and he's ready to go. Alright, I hope this tutorial was helpful. I'm hoping to make some more in the future of how to add the arms, how to add those extra embellishments, and how to make the basic part of it. But if there are any particular questions you have or anything you would want to see, please just reach out to me in the comments or send me a message, and I will be happy to make another video. Thanks.